You think this all started with rage. You're wrong. It started with hope, with soft eyes that saw light in everyone, with hands that reached out, even when they were bleeding. I wasn't born with darkness in my chest. It was gifted to me, wrapped in pretty smiles, laced with good intentions. My heart, it was a home, and they were guests. But they didn't just leave. They trashed the place. They carved their names into my walls, stabbed memories into my furniture, lit fires in every room, then blamed me for the smoke. The first betrayal. It wasn't the worst. It was a paper cut, a scratch. But I didn't know what it meant. Not yet, so I forgave and forgave again. Because back then, I thought love was about bleeding without complaint. I gave too much, trusted too fast, believed too deeply, and every time I opened the door, they brought sharper knives, smiled wider, stabbed cleaner. I used to think the pain would make me stronger, but all it did was teach me how to go numb. They say I changed. No. I just stopped letting people walk through me like I was a hallway. I just stopped mistaking their chaos for company. I just stopped bleeding for the unworthy. That first cut. It wasn't the deepest, but it taught me a truth that haunts me louder than screams. You don't break all at once. You break in whispers, in pieces, in apologies, in the silence between betrayals. And by the time you realize what's happening, you're already on the floor, smiling, bleeding, and still asking if they need anything before they leave. Kindness, that was my first mistake. I thought kindness would fix them. I thought if I gave enough, waited long enough, loved hard enough, they'd finally stop swinging. But all it did was make me a bigger target. They didn't see grace, they saw weakness. They didn't see loyalty, they saw a leash. I gave chances, I gave time, I gave love. They gave nothing back, not a flicker of remorse, not a second of hesitation, not even a pause before the next betrayal. I kept bleeding, thinking it was noble, kept forgiving, thinking it was strength, kept hoping, thinking maybe they were broken too. But they weren't broken, they were comfortable. Comfortable watching me drown while they sipped from my lungs. They saw empathy as a doorway and walked through it with knives. They laughed at the light in me, took it as proof I'd never fight back. But here's the thing, even the sun gets tired of rising. Even the river grows violent after enough storms. I gave so much of myself that there was nothing left to steal. So they started carving. They carved their guilt into my skin, their shame into my silence, their failures into my spine, and every time I showed mercy, they sharpened it into a blade. I gave chances. I gave time. I gave love. They gave me scars, so don't tell me I changed. I didn't change. I adapted. You want to know why I stopped caring? Because every time I cared, I died a little more. And I got tired of dying for people who felt nothing while I shattered, just trying to keep them whole. They thought they were hurting me. They thought the blades would break me. But every stab, every betrayal was a lesson. And I learned. Oh, I learned. I started counting them. Not out of pain, but out of clarity. Each scar, a story, each silence, a scream I swallowed, each goodbye, a blade buried a little deeper. They called it love, but it came with knives. They called it friendship, but it felt like poison dressed in laughter. They called it loyalty, then ran the moment it rained. I used to ask why. I used to cry, scream, plead. But that version of me, he's gone, buried under the weight of all their lessons. Because here's what they didn't see. Every wound stitched itself into armor. Every disappointment sharpened my spine. Every lie taught me how to hear the truth in silence. You think pain weakens you? No, pain is a professor, a sculptor, a mirror. It doesn't just destroy, it reshapes, and I let it. I stopped begging, I stopped bleeding, I stopped breaking. I stood up with all their weapons still lodged in my back, and I wore them like medals. Every stab, a note in the symphony of my silence. And soon I learned to love the silence, because in silence I heard the truth, that I was never the villain. I was just the one who wouldn't stay on the floor. They created the monster. They sculpted the shadow, and then they blamed me for becoming what they forged. But the joke's on them, because I took every wound and I turned it into strategy. I took every tear and turned it into stone. I stopped feeling sorry. I started remembering, and now I don't feel pain. I feel purpose, they said. I was cold, but they were the winter. I didn't wake up like this. I became this, piece by piece, freeze by freeze. You think I stopped feeling? No, I just stopped letting. The feelings kill me, because every time I cared, it cost me something I never got back. Peace, sleep, sanity. They pushed, and I bent. They tore, and I held on. But eventually, even the most loyal soul learns. You stop waiting for people to change. You stop praying they'll understand. You stop reaching out with hands that only come back bleeding. So I stopped. I stopped explaining. I stopped apologizing. I stopped caring. They mistook my silence for emptiness. But silence is just the sound of healing when you're done screaming. Learned to walk through the fire without flinching, without hoping, without asking for water. I didn't become heartless. I became immune to their lies, to their drama, to their manipulations dressed up as affection. They don't break me anymore. They just echo off the walls I built with their names. Call me cold, call me distant, call me cruel. I don't flinch, because the version of me that flinched, he's gone. They buried him. Every time they turned their backs, every time they made me question my worth, every time they laughed at the pieces they broke. Now I don't bleed when they cut. I don't fold when they press. I don't even blink when they walk away. You don't scare a ghost with abandonment. You don't threaten fire with smoke. Not broken. I'm not bitter. just evolved. Let them talk. Let them whisper. Let them point their trembling fingers and call it madness. I've heard it all before. They've changed. They've lost it. They're not the same. No, I'm not. And that's the point. They fear what they can't control. They hate what they can't break. So they label it madness, insanity, rage. But tell me, what do you call a man who saw too much, felt too deep, and finally decided to stop bleeding for people who love to watch you drown? You call him free. They call it rage. I call it truth. They call it cruelty. I call it justice. They call it chaos. I call it clarity, because when the lies fall away and the masks shatter, what's left isn't madness, it's me. I laugh because it's funny. How they break you, then blame you for the cracks. How they set fires, then cry when you rise from the ashes, burning brighter than their sun. They want you quiet. They want you obedient. They want you numb. But me, I talk too loud. I walk too proud. And I feel too much to ever go back. They can't stomach the version of me that no longer begs, that no longer fits inside their box, that no longer bows to their delusions. So let them call it madness. Let them call it rebellion. Let them call it dangerous. Because every time they speak, they only confirm one thing. I've finally become something they can't predict, can't mold, can't kill. And if that's madness, then maybe madness is exactly what I needed to finally be free. You want to know why I became this? Because of you, all of you. Don't look surprised. Don't pretend your hands are clean. Every piece of me, you helped carve it, brick by brick, scar by scar. You mocked the cracks in my voice, so I stopped speaking. You twisted my kindness into a leash, so I cut the cord. You told me I was too much, so I became too dangerous to ignore. You want to act shocked by who I am now. Then you've forgotten who hammered the nails into this coffin. You fed it. You feared it. And now you face it. You built this monster in silence, in betrayals. In all the nights I begged for someone to see me, and all the mornings I woke up invisible. You trained me to survive pain. You trained me to smile through storms. You trained me to hide fire under my tongue. And when I finally learned, you blamed me for the flames. But this isn't some accident. This isn't madness. This isn't luck. It's construction. Every time you lied, you laid another brick. Every time you disappeared, you poured another layer of concrete. And every time you called me too broken to be loved, you built the foundation of this fortress. So don't flinch now. Don't tremble in front of what you created. I am not your mistake. I am your reflection. I'm what happens when you ignore a soul until it starves. Then cry when it turns into a beast to survive. You made this. You shaped it. You armed it. Now stand there and watch it rise. Now I feel nothing. And that is my superpower. No pain, no fear, no mercy. You can't break what's already shattered. You can't scare what's already lived through hell. You can't kill what's already buried itself to survive. I don't flinch anymore. I don't hope anymore. I don't beg for understanding or acceptance. I simply exist, untouchable, unmoved, unfazed. They tried to use emotion against me, tried to twist love into chains, tried to weaponize guilt, sympathy, silence. But all that's gone now, burned out, starved out, ripped out of me piece by piece, until what remained wasn't fragile. It was final. You want to know what power feels like? It's not anger, it's not revenge. It's the absence of all of it. It's silence where the scream used to live. It's calm while the world begs for chaos. It's walking through the fire and forgetting you were ever flammable. No pain, no fear, no mercy. That's not a threat. That's a promise carved into my soul. I don't lash out. I don't scream back. I don't explain anymore. I just watch. Watch as the world that taught me indifference now drowns in the void it created. You can't hurt what's already gone, and that's why you'll lose. Because while you're still trying to feel, still hoping for love, still afraid of loss, say, already buried those things. And I walk lighter now without the weight of emotion, dragging me back to a world I no longer answer to. Let them hate, let them fear, let them fall, because I've given them everything else. My time, my love, my trust, my silence, and still they wanted blood. They thought they could destroy me quietly, piece by piece, scar by scar, but all they did was build a weapon. I'm not your villain, I'm your consequence. I'm what rises when you burn down everything soft, I'm what's left when love is ripped out and replaced with vengeance. I'm the echo of every scream you ignored, the fire born from every tear you mocked. You call me ruthless, good, because I'm done flinching when I should be fighting, done apologizing for becoming exactly what this world demanded. You wanted a monster, then kneel before the one you created. Let them hate, let them fear, let them fall. I don't seek forgiveness. I don't need redemption. I need results. I need silence. I need them to remember what happens when you back someone into a corner and leave them to rot. They think I'm dangerous now. They haven't seen fury fed by peace. They haven't seen calm carved from chaos. They haven't seen someone who already died and chose to come back as something they can't control. Look at me. I'm not bitter. I'm not broken. I'm reborn. You didn't kill me. You forged me. And now, let them hate. Let them fear. Let them fall, because this time, there's nothing left to lose and everything to burn.